for going live. It's preparing the live stream. So, so Bobbie's going to tell us, I think, that when we're live, Em. So we're practiced up to this point.
Hello, everybody. We're live. It's good to see you. We've been live for about a minute.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Awesome. When we're live. Okay, so it may come up, it comes up automatically on my computer, but Bobbie will be monitoring as well any questions that come in live from YouTube too. So we're going to get this technology sorted one day. Cool. Great to see you. Good morning. Good morning, everyone, and good morning, Emily Greenaway, our wonderful special guest today, and Bobbie McGrath from Top 10 Home Stager from the US. So let's jump into how to stand out and sell your home spectacularly. And this is week 2 this week. Emily, thank you so much for joining us this week. We are really excited to see you. And I just want to say hi to Trudy from Montana. Trudy has, I don't know what time it is there. It's evening. So we're trying to pick the best times in both areas. So, Bobbie and I had a chance to watch you on Aussie Property Flippers this week. And I've got to say, the thing that struck me first is that you can actually renovate a home without crying, tears, tantrums, and swearing at each other.
Welcome to real life, yeah. Yeah, look, that's the one thing I really enjoyed about doing Aussie Property Flippers is, and that's, part of the reason why we took it on in the first place and agreed to do that, is because it was real and it was real life, grassroots. This is what it's like, it's a day in the life of. There's no smoke and mirror and fake budgets and, people telling you that, you have to swear at each other because it gets good ratings on TV or whatever. There was none of that. It was just real. And I had a ball just because, I love being able to share with the world how we do things and help to empower other people. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And Bobbie coined the term from tap shoes to tap hammer. So tell us a bit about you. You're a star as well, or you have been in a former life.
You're going to make my head grow so big I won't get out the door this morning. I had about 15 years in the entertainment industry, or probably a bit longer actually, my whole life. So I'm 36 now, but at about 30 I did the jump into the real estate world. But prior to that, I was wearing tap shoes and crazy makeup, dressed up as trains and all sorts of stuff. I did music theatre over in Germany and London and here, and worked on cruise ships before that, and had a really exciting fulfilling career, and then just decided that I wanted to take my life in my hands and stop living that hand-to-mouth lifestyle. And it was at the point where I pretty much it was the last major musical that I did as a performer. It closed 13 months early, 12 months early, so it was a 13-month run. And 3 weeks into the contract, literally the producer announced that we were going to close our doors, and we didn't even leave Melbourne. So it pretty much left us all broke, high and dry. I had no money. I literally, Tracey, had no idea where I was going to get my next rent check from, how I was going to feed myself. I was living on nothing, a piece of broccoli and onion and some chicken stock I remember cooking up and burning. So, it was pretty bad times. And, when you can only just slide down the wall in shame and just think, what is my life? At the time I was approaching 30 and thinking, I cannot live like this anymore. So I literally took the measly payout, which was about $1,000 at the time. Woo! And I invested in my first property. I actually, it skipped a bit, but I borrowed some money off my granddad and my parents to be able to do a property education course. And I learned how to get into real estate with little or no money, which was like at the time that was screaming at me. Yes, that's me. So I took the $1,000. I put it down as a down payment on a property for a 12-month settlement, and rented each room of that house out, as well as the shed out the back, because I recognised that there was no storage in the area. So I literally was earning a passive income of $300 a week off a property that I didn't even own. And that was how I got into the property market and had to do things, you know, quite creatively and outside the box, because I just literally didn't have any money. You know, I always wanted to get into real estate, but I didn't actually think it would be possible for, you know, quote unquote, somebody like me at the time. I just didn't think it was possible.
Well,
so desperation's a wonderful thing, really, isn't it?
Well, it forces you to do things that you ordinarily wouldn't do, yes.
And what were you going to say, Bobbie?
Well, I just love the fact that you had all of this energy, you had this focus. So you educated yourself and then you stepped forward. And I love that. So I made a note to myself, from energy through education equals earning. So I love that. I love that about your story. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Thank you.
And do you mind if we have a little chat about Aussie Property Flippers? Because Bobbie and I found there was a number of learning opportunities there. Certainly things for us, things we've seen before, you know, so we'd love to ask you about some of those things, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely, sure.
Okay, great. One of the first things I noticed, and unfortunately it's just gone off the air. I'm really sorry. The sun has just come up here and it's really bright. So, oh well, it's live. So yeah. So anyway, we've got tile paint was one of the things, one of the conversations you and Az had. He wasn't a fan.
No. How
did that work out, and how did that come about? And I know Bobbie's actually used it in one of her homes, so interesting. I've just recommended it to some clients in the last couple of days, and so I'm really curious as to how it all came out.
Look, tile paint is the best thing since sliced bread. You know, it's not a forever solution. It has a lifespan of probably you'd get a good 5 quality years out of tile paint, maybe even 10. It depends on the, you know, on the usage. But, you know, for flipping, it's great because let's be honest, people who buy the property are most likely in sort of between 5 or 10 years going to want to update it again anyway, because fashion changes, style changes frequently. So, you know, sometimes with a property where you know, the juice isn't just worth the squeeze when you're talking budgets, you know, it's not worth spending more because you're not going to get it back. The property's not going to repay you that money that you're investing into it. Then it's a perfect solution. So, for example, we work to a methodology that's we only spend $1 if it's going to give us back $3 in return. You know, I don't understand the logic, you know, and everybody's different. But, you know, a lot of people would be okay with spending, you know, 50 grand to make a 20 grand profit. That's not my world, because to me that's too high a risk. I would any day of the week spend 15 to make 90, which is what we did. So, you know, at the end of the day, you've just got to really weigh up who's your end buyer, what are they looking for, and is it worth it to totally demolish and put in brand new everything, or can I make it look modern by some simple cosmetic changes? Because sometimes you can do a lot for very little. As you know, you guys saw, we did a whole bathroom for $1,000 and it was just a complete makeover. It was just totally different. Yeah.
And obviously it helps to have a trusted tradie on your team. A trusted tradie is a vendor, Bobbie. I think you would call them a vendor.
No.
So a trades person.
Trades, right. They'd be the trades. Yes.
The trades.
Wow. Isn't that interesting? Because we call a vendor a homeowner or a seller. That's our vendor.
I know I was teaching my class to the realtors, and there was this kind of glaze that went over, and then Tracey leaned in and explained to me, and I was like, oh, that's the difference. Yeah. We call them sellers. We call them the boss, you know. So
yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I suppose, yes, it does help. I'm very blessed to have a partner who's a tradie, although before that I did do a lot of DIY and hands-on myself. I don't have an issue getting my hands dirty, but it truly does help. And that doesn't need to be your life partner either. That can be a partner that you team up with or joint venture with, or one person brings one element of the equation and they bring the other. And I'm a big believer in collaboration, which we'll probably touch on later.
yes,
We'd love to touch on that. And obviously you can see that Bobbie and I are big believers in collaboration as well. Yeah. We've been talking to each other and talking to Australia, I guess, for the last 12 months. So really enjoying that collaboration process as well. So what, the resurfacing of doors and bench tops in the kitchen. That was really interesting to me. And I know you do it a lot, Bobbie. What sort of products do you use? What's your process for that, Em?
Okay, so there is quite a process and you must follow it, because if you don't, it can be disastrous, which I'm sure you saw in that episode, as used a foam roller instead of a nap roller. And, I panicked because I knew that it wasn't the finish that we were after. I knew that it wasn't the finish I'd achieved in the past, and I was trying to rack my brains for the life of me why it had come up like that. But, it goes back to education. It's all about educating yourself. And look, Google and YouTube are some of the best educators out there. Obviously, you've got to pick and choose what you take on board. But there is a lot of opportunity for free advice, really. You've just got to know what's good and what's not and decipher between the two. But, look, for example, with your doors, I mean, a door's a door. Unless it's got some sort of groove in it that gives it away that it's an older style or a period style, and you're not going for that, you're going for something modern. A door is a flat surface that blocks one area off from another area. Now, you can very easily change the look of that door by simply shifting and changing the door handles. Door handles are a big giveaway, but also resurfacing, like you mentioned, with what's quite attractive is a high gloss enamel white. I'm a big believer in white and bright, and especially for what we're doing with small apartments, it makes it look bigger. So if you can create an illusion and a feeling in somebody's head when they're walking through, that's what's going to sell the property. It's more about what they subconsciously don't know that they like about the property that sells it. And you've got to be able to create stories as you're walking through the property. And I call it a wow moment at every corner. So, you turn the corner and there's something there that they like. And then you turn the corner at next corner and there's something else that they like. And so they go through the property subconsciously clocking up all these yeses in their head. And then by the time that they leave, there's way too many reasons to go for it than not to go for it. So the last thing you want to do is create even just one element of it that they're a little unsure of. So, I think it goes back to just attention to detail, and the little things matter. Things you don't think will matter do, and things sometimes that you think will matter actually don't. With bench top kits, oh my gosh, they are the best. We have had a property since back in, when did we renovate? So last June. We've had guests staying there through Airbnb. I don't know if the viewers are familiar. Airbnb is like a short-term rental booking platform online, and it is off the charts. It's crazy. We love it. But we've had multiple guests, hundreds of guests go through this property, and we've used bench top kit. Now, it's a hard enamel, so when it finishes, you can't obviously use knives on it and things like that. You wouldn't do that on any bench, but it's really hardy and tough wearing, and we love it because you can take something that's old and literally for $108 make it look, well, depending on where you buy it from, but make it look totally different and brand new.
I got a question for you. The
Yes.
bench, is that a countertop? The bench?
Yes, yes.
Okay. See, America, I have got your back. I'm making sure we get the translation, because I was thinking now, I think it's the countertop. So yeah.
Yeah, countertop.
Because I've seen a product here. I don't recall the brand name here. And as I was watching the episode and I saw you using it, I was thinking, because I've always been suspicious that it wouldn't hold up.
Yeah.
But you were saying no knives, well, of course you wouldn't use knives on the counter anyway. So, I mean, common. So that's good to hear that with all of that, probably less than careful use from the people coming through, it's still holding up. So that could answer a lot of problems right there. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's awesome. And we were really nervous, to be honest, because, you're always more careful with your own than other people would be. And look, you probably could use knives on there. I wouldn't, but you probably could, because, there's 3 layers to it. You've got to prepare. And what people skip most of the time is the preparation period. And that is just key. You've got to prepare the surface. And that requires a whole bunch of stuff like sanding back, cleaning properly with the right solutions, to make sure there's absolutely no residue on there whatsoever, sanding it back, then wiping it over 1,000,000 times to get rid of the sand, or the grit from the sanding, and then there's a preparation layer that you've got to put on, and then you do 1, if not 2 top coats, and then you've got your enamel over the top. So it's quite a preparation to do it, and it takes time. And where you cut corners, that's where your problems come in, and that's where people give the product a bad name, because they've cut corners and then they're wearing the consequences. So, if it's done properly, it's designed for wear and tear, because let's be honest, how often do we use the kitchen? Every day, or the bathroom every day.
So then how long is the curing process from the start to the finish before you can put the coffee pot and things onto the counter or to the bench? Look at me speaking Australian. You put the coffee pot on. How long does that process take?
You want to give it a good couple of days. And again, that's where people, try and cut corners and do things quickly. And, a couple of days when you're saving a good few thousand is not a long time. So if you do it properly and you don't cut the corners, the curing for the top coat, you'd want to give that a good 24, 48 hours. You probably don't need to, but we do, because you want to make sure that no matter what you put on there, it's not going to wear and tear, because, one tiny scratch or nick, it's done the whole entire job an injustice. And you don't want to have to, you can't really replace that or do it again. So you'd have to replace the whole bench top if you don't do it properly.
So how much, now you said that the process to do that, to do the painting or the resurfacing of the bench tops there, was about $108?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now what would it have cost to replace the countertops, do you think?
$2,700.
Okay, I love your math. And then I believe in the episode that you replaced the backsplash, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so now did you replace it or did you add one? I can't remember.
We replaced it. So what was there was just painted wall on one side, and then on the other side there was some old, crappy looking tiles. And ironically, and this is where the irony is, we actually spent more on we call it, isn't this funny? We call it a splashback and you guys call it a backsplash.
Speaking American. Okay.
Yeah. But we spent more there because that's our wow factor. Every single person that comes through our projects goes, oh, I love the splashback. It stands out, it pops, they love that. And that's what draws them in. And, we don't have anyone saying, oh, have you painted the bench tops? Not a one.
I love that, because I different homes. I've been in lots of homes through the years, and I can't tell you how many times I will see clients who do this before I get there. Here, granite's a big deal. People put their granite in. Then they do that little 4-inch return across the back.
Mm-hmm.
And then they leave the wall naked from that point up. And I tell everybody, don't spend that money on that little 4-inch return. It does nothing except take your money. You can take that money and put a backsplash on there and transform the kitchen. So I was happy to see you do that. And as I was watching you work, the things that you did again were cosmetic. except for the sizzle of the backsplash. I thought that was really, really smart, because when you looked into the kitchen, you had that wonderful sparkle of the backsplash, which really draws attention to what I call the money of the room. So I thought that was inspired. I love that. I love that.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think going back to your paint, your resurfacing, I think what a lot of people think is that it's paint. You know, ordinary paint. They don't understand that it's a preparation. It's an enamel. It's specifically designed for wear and tear and hardiness. So I think, you know, even up and above tile paint, your resurfacing of the bench tops, it's a really good product.
Write that one down. It'll be in my toolbox.
And Emily, Bobbie's one of the top 10 home stagers in the US, and she's actually worked in over 6,000 homes, or coming up to 6,000 homes. Over 4.
I know.
So she's really, we're really all about making sure that people get the most bang for their dollars. So you're really, really speaking our language here too. Now, do we have any questions from the people who are joining us?
Okay, I was looking here along the side. I don't see any questions. I don't see any questions in our Q&A. We want to encourage you guys to go ahead and ask your questions. And as I look over here, I don't see an opportunity for it to be actually on YouTube. So if you've got questions, you can join us and go to the side. If you move your cursor at the bottom, you'll see a Q&A section or the chat section. Feel free to add your questions, comments, whatever, through that process, and I'll make sure that it gets into the mix, okay? So again, it's the chat, which you can then put the question on the side of the panel of the screen, or you can go to the Q&A section and put that in. And having said that, hey, Jody, good to see you here. Jody is asking, what's the product called that Emily used to resurface the bench top? So do you recall the brand?
Yeah, it's a Rust-Oleum or Rust-Oleum, whichever way you want to say it, benchtop resurfacing kit. You can just get it at most hardware stores, to be honest, and it may be a discrepancy of price depending on, and I'd recommend ringing around and getting quotes before you go out and get it. So, you know, ring 3 different brands of hardware store and get it a bit cheaper. I think if you're in Australia, I think the Paint Spot in Burleigh might do it the cheapest if that's in Queensland, but you know, ring around. I mean, it's a difference of a couple, you know, $100, like, you know, versus a couple of thousand. I think we'll be okay.
So Emily, and colors, are there a variety of colors, or is it, you know, like I know the tile paint that I can use here is really limited to a very narrow white, and then you can get some pastels, and that's about it.
Okay, so we're really lucky in Australia because the White Knight brand of tile paint can be tinted to any color you like.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, so we can literally match it up to whatever you want. You just get the little swab and match it up to what you want. But the bench top kit's a different story. You still can tint it, but if you use the White Knight, you can tint it. But if you use the Rust-Oleum, which I don't know, I'm torn between which is a better brand, but I have had a really great success with Rust-Oleum. But the two that are the standouts are, you've got like a shimmery black, and then we use, bright white, or no, it's I can't think off the top of my head, sorry, but it's you know, it's got sparkle through it. So as much as that sounds really tacky, it's not. It looks beautiful and it comes up so lovely and shiny. It's not a matte finish, it's a nice glossy finish. Yeah, so, and you can get the ones as well that have confetti in them, which sounds weird, I know, but it gives that marble look. So when you put on the confetti and then put on your top coat, it actually gives that speckled look, which is kind of, I don't know, I think that look is not really in anymore, but I know that, well, here, but I know you guys use that kind of whole marble granite, the granite look. That's really, really hot in America from what I can see on the TV watching the shows, but I don't love it. I like it right.
Well, I got to tell you, the granite and things, it's changing, and quartz is becoming very, very popular. And then also, instead of the shiny granite, the honed granite now is getting some play, which I like. I happen to like soapstone, and it'll turn a nice granite into, you know, that look. But yeah, I'm learning to love white from watching you guys and working with you guys, because we don't use a lot of white. We'll do white cabinets and things like that. So it's yeah, but our homes are very, very traditional with lots of moldings and hardwood floors and that type of thing. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. I've noticed that difference.
Yeah. And what we found, Emily, is that in Bobbie's area, it's a more traditional area. So hardwood floors, you know, a lot of mouldings in the walls. So they're really looking to put the colour in the walls to get that depth and to be able to show off those beautiful mouldings. But they don't use a lot of artwork either. So it's the principles, well, the principles remain the same, how we apply them to our different areas. And this is true of different areas of the US and obviously all around the world, that you really have to look at your own area and do your homework in your own area, I suppose, to be looking at what's on trend. But
100%.
not following trends too much either, you know.
Yes.
It can get you in hot water. Then you start looking like everyone else. Go on, Bobbie. Sorry.
Shelley had a question. She was wanting to know about flooring, about, you know, investing in good flooring. What's your thought process when you're flipping a property as far as flooring?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We have a bit of a model template that we stick to. The reason being is because it works, and, you know, I've got the old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So for now, we're sticking with a flooring that, again, shows off the light and the brightness of the rooms, and it enhances the size of the room because it's not dark. If you have a dark flooring, especially in an apartment, which is what we're focusing on right now, it really hones in and makes the room look small. So with our flooring, we've sort of opted for that coastal kind of feel, because it really also creates, for somebody coming through for an inspection, a really calming, relaxing vibe. Now, when people are in that calm and relaxed state, you know, they make good decisions and they feel good. So if you feel good, you're going to want more of it. So they come through and they look, and again, it's one of those subconscious things. They don't know what it is, but they know they feel good, you know, and they feel relaxed, they feel calm. So, you know, it's all about a feeling. That's it. That is it with renovations. It's all about creating feelings for somebody else, because, you know, it's someone's sanctuary. They've got to live there. They've got to feel good there. So, you know, it's something, that's why we don't go for a lot of blacks and a lot of, you know, the colours that are perhaps in at the moment, because, you know, just because they're in fashion doesn't mean that it creates a desired feeling that's going to make people want to buy the house, you know, and if it is, it might be short-lived. So yeah, with flooring, we grab a floating floor. So the click-clack floor, not the vinyl, the hardwood, but the click-clack put together floating floor. So it looks like timber. It feels like timber. I think that's important. We do use a product that's quite inexpensive, but it's not the bottom of the range, because, you know, you want to still make it feel underfoot like it's a timber. Well, it is a timber, but feel like it's like thick wood.
Solid.
Yeah, it's solid. Thank you. Sorry, it's early.
That's okay. So
we're certainly singing from the same songbook, Emily. I think, you know, these are the types of recommendations that Bobbie and I would always make, you know, not going for the bottom range, because people will feel it, exactly as you say, but going for something that is the best quality you can find within your price range, that's going to have the best result for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And a good underlay as well is super important, especially with apartments. Yeah. And you know, laying it on an uneven surface is a no-no. You've got to make sure that it's a very even surface, because you don't want to end up with either bubbling, like where it sort of buckles or warps, or worse, you know, cracking or, you know, movement of any kind.
That's true.
And we've got
another question about flooring, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to say their name, so forgive me, but I'm going to give it a try. Biljana was asking, hi, Emily, what's the brand of flooring that you use in the apartments?
Okay, so the branding, you know what? It totally escapes me. I have no idea what it is. I know what to look at. But we get it from Bunnings in Australia hardware store. Okay. But yeah, you there's only a few, so you'd be able to pick it. But it's about $18 a square meter, which is super, super inexpensive.
That's really good. I mean, I'm translating meters and dollars, so.
Yeah.
And now we've got Allison Week. She's kind of jumped over to bathrooms, and she said regarding bathrooms, in a small apartment, is a shower over bath worth keeping, or is there a better return to take out the bath and keep the shower only?
No, there's a big argument around this because, you know, it does look better to have a modern shower and you know, a tiled floor with a frameless shower screen and, you know, the whole works. And look, it depends again who your end buyer is. That is crucial, because if you're trying to sell a 2-bedroom apartment to perhaps say a couple that want to have a baby, you know, and that you want a bath, you have to have a bath. But, you know, if you're selling to an executive professional couple, or maybe an older retiree couple, or, you know, it depends who your end buyer is. Who are you pitching that to? But at the end of the day, I believe a bath adds value any day of the week. And you get less complaints for people having to step into a shower over bath than you would for people who are missing out on not having a bath at all.
There you go. Yeah.
And actually, Alison is joining us from Alice Springs this morning. So Alice Springs is in Central Australia, Bobbie. It is a very iconic country town here that, you know, is the true Australia, some people would say. So, you know, fantastic that you're joining us from the Alice this morning, Alison. Are you? I just realised, I think you're Darwin, now that I think about it, but same area, sort of few, you know, maybe 1,000 kilometres apart. Sorry about that, Alison. And I've got a question about, unless anyone else has, Bobbie, but I've got a question, about, Bobbie and I were talking about this because how they appraise properties in the US, how they price them is kind of different to ours. You know, like we have room. I saw the movement in your budgeting, because originally you paid, I think it was you paid $330, didn't you? Paid $330.
Yes.
And you were hoping for 400,000.
Yes.
So, plus, you know, less your spend of 10,000 originally. So you were hoping for a $60,000 profit initially. Then once you heard about the apartment next door that had sold for or was selling, it had an offer of 465. This is an interesting thing that happens to everyone. Suddenly everything changes when your home starts to look better, when you're feeling really good about it. Tell us about that part of the process too, because I know, Bobbie, in the US you actually appraise in a different way, and maybe we can talk about that after Emily tells us about, you know, that pricing and how you determine that.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of just keeping really close tabs on the market, what the market's doing. I spend a lot of time of my day on realestate.com, finding properties, looking it up on RP Data or Real Estate Investor, which are some softwares that you can look up, Price Finder, and, you know, do a lot of research. And I just saw this ridiculous jump in the market, which told me that people are coming to this area. They're wanting to buy in this area. There was a lot of interstate buyers because the prices in Melbourne and Sydney are just way too unaffordable. And they're seeing value for money up here, which is awesome. You know, you can buy a beautiful apartment, renovated apartment with a stone's throw to the beach and the shops. I mean, it's just, when you think about it and consider it, it's insane. But, I think with values, you've got to base your values on your direct comparables. So I don't mean, basing a 3-bedroom house with a 2-bedroom apartment. It's just, just because it's in the same street or the same town doesn't mean that its value is the same. You've got to, it's like for like, apples for apples. And so with this apartment in the same complex, it was a 2-bedroom like ours. It was a 1-bathroom like ours. It was a direct comparable. And, especially in the area that we're in, you can have a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom across the street, but it can be a totally different apartment. It can be a walk up on the outside with, undercover parking, but you got to like walk outside to go up the stairs to get there. And so that devalues it literally sometimes by $50,000 to $100,000 because people just don't want to walk up. What if it's raining? What if, it's much more appealing to have that underground car park with an internal walk up. Things like, you might have something that literally at the moment, there's places that are same apartment, like apples for apples, but it's 3rd floor instead of ground floor. And because the demographic that's going to be the end buyer is your 50 plus, for us a lot of the time, not all of the time, but there are a lot of retirees wanting to move here that have hard cash from either superannuation or which is your to something K, 4K,
401k.
401k. And they want that, and so they don't want to walk up 3 flights of stairs. So you've really got to study what is driving the price, what is driving the market. This comparable price was on the same floor, the same level as us. We looked at, okay, why are they getting their price? What have they done? What can we do to match that to get into the same price range? And when we weighed it up, we were talking about pitching for another $50,000 more than what we thought. Well, then, to spend another $5, well, that's achievable when I go back to my formula of spending $1 to get 3 back. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We could have spent another, 10 probably and still felt comfortable. But, I always like to err on the side of caution, just in case. I could be wrong, There's always room for error.
So
sorry, go on, Bobbie, please.
Well, my question was the other property, which had the offer at $465. I don't understand the terminology that you folks use. So that deal fell through, and I think the phrase was because they didn't get the funding. So what I was wondering was, did the house not appraise, or was it that they were not able to qualify for the loan? Was that
the second one? It was that the buyers weren't qualifying for the loan. Now, this is the problem, because the market here grew so quickly, the valuers hadn't caught up yet. So there was people prepared to pay more, but because the rest of the market, it grew so quickly, there wasn't a lot of properties that had the opportunity to catch up to what people were willing to pay. So there's an undersupply and over demand for the properties, but because there's that gap of there's not enough time where the properties have had a chance to go from here to here, really you've got to pitch to people that are willing to pay cash, or give the valuers or hope that you get a good valuer and not get them on a grumpy day, because it really does affect what they value the property as. So it's a little bit of both, Bobbie. It's a little bit that people can't qualify to get the finance because the valuers don't understand how quickly it's grown, and that the end buyers are willing to pay that. Now it's changed, and that's all happened in probably 3 or 4 months, because there's a lot more people that have come in for cash buying at that top price. So therefore, there is legitimately evidence of properties that have sold at this higher rate. And that's a lot of the time what the valuers pick their valuations on, is what properties in the area have sold for. So it's starting to shift, but it was really tricky at that point in time, because we knew every day of the week that we would be able to get that. But what we like to do is flip quickly, because the more time that you hold onto a property, the more it costs you. And then your profit levels start to come down. So, and also at that time, we were in a situation that we were contracted to Channel 7 and we had to sell the property because it was a flipping show.
Right.
Otherwise, alternatively, we would have loved to have kept it and Airbnb'd it. It was, it was very successful on Airbnb. But anyway, yeah, so going back to the valuations, you've just got to keep your eye on the market very, very closely, because, if all these interstate buyers weren't understanding, well, Mr. Agent Man, why is this property this much and that property, 3 doors down is that much? And there was this, this shift happening. And we could point out all the reasons why. Well, if you want to go and live in the 70s or the 80s, go down there. And if you want something that's brand new and updated and gorgeous and you don't want to do any of the work, we'll come up here. So
That's it. So,
and people are willing to pay for that, obviously, now.
Yeah.
Aren't they? They're not looking to do their own renovations, which was probably the trend when you first started renovating, Em.
Yeah, well, it's the market too, Trace, because, very rarely would you find somebody who's sort of in that retirement age that wants to pick up a hammer. They just don't. They want to enjoy life. They want to come up to the beautiful sunshine and the beach and have something that they can just walk in, wipe their hands clean, and they're done. And that goes the same for professional couples. They're too busy. They don't want to do all of that. And, the money as well. A lot of people just don't have the money to go out and spend to do it themselves. Whereas, when you're talking about getting bank lending, it's a different sort of story. It's borrowing money as opposed to having the hard cash to do it yourself.
right.
So there's many different reasons.
And I know that you have a system, and I don't know how much you want to talk about this at the moment, Em, but, just because I know you, as you said, you get inundated by people who are keen to take advantage of being able to renovate their home for $0. So, what types of things are you doing in your business to help others?
Yeah. Oh, look, there's a few things in the works at the moment. We're putting together a little bit of a webinar series at the moment, but that's a little ways off. I do have an ebook, and we do like to offer up advice if and where possible. But one of the things that we really like to do, and it's not for every single property, but if the property is maybe a little tired and worn down, and it's in an area that perhaps there is a growth in the market, or it would sell for substantially more money if it was renovated. Oftentimes the seller who's selling the property just isn't in a position to afford that, but they know they're seeing all of these properties around them and their neighbours' properties being lifted in value and them selling for so much more, and it's heartbreaking to watch. And we came up with a bit of a strategy actually, where we will actually go in and offer to renovate that property for free. So we don't charge for any of our time or workmanship to do that. And we have it valued before we start. So, for example, if the property is valued in at, say, $350,000, but we know that every day of the week, if it was renovated, it would sell for $450,000 or above. Just as round numbers, an example, it's very different depending on the property. But we'll get it valued to begin with, and say to the vendor, the seller, sorry. That you could sell your property for $350,000, but if we could lift the value and you could put it on the market for $450,000, how would you feel about doing a 50-50 split of the increase up and above $350,000? Now, obviously we take out the material costs, but whatever the profit is that's left over, we'll split that with the seller. Now, for them, it's great because they get extra money for doing absolutely nothing. We actually get to make a profit from not owning the property, which means we don't have to pay stamp duty and capital gains tax. So it's a win-win. The agent wins because they can sell the property for the higher price and obviously make more commission. And it just is a beautiful strategy that is a win-win-win for all parties. Now, obviously, there are ways that they could do it themselves, and they could you know, good. If people can do that, that's awesome. But just, you know, not a lot of people can. So, you know, it takes having spare cash. It takes knowing what you're doing. If you're not, like, if we were to do the work, we obviously have a vested interest, so we keep the costs low. We make sure that the budget is going to be the lowest budget possible to maximise the highest return. Whereas, you know, if you go out there and start booking your own trades to come and do the work yourself, try times 10, you know, the times the budget by 10, literally. And I'm not even joking. So, you know, it's really the time and labour component that costs the most money, and we don't charge for that. So, yeah, it's a really awesome way that we can team up, joint venture, collaborate with people to create a win-win-win scenario. And I love that, because, you know, those people are going to want to work with you again and again and again. And it's just that law of reciprocity, you know, what you give. If you give more, then you're more successful.
That's perfect.
And also, Emily, how you came across that idea is an interesting story, because you were actually in an area where was it flood, fire? I can't quite recall.
Yeah, so we were in a storm, very, very heavily storm damaged area on the Central Coast in Victoria. My partner, just in between a couple of projects we were doing, got offered some insurance work, and so it was only a couple of weeks sort of worth of work. Anyway, a couple of months later, we were still there. I went up to help out the builders as well, and we just continually kept seeing that the people that got the insurance, and it depended on who their insurer was as to whether or not they got a payout or not, and it's just ridiculous, I know, but it came down to that. And the ones that were with a certain insurance company were getting all these massive payouts and doing full-blown renovations on their home when it was just, you know, a small amount of storm damage. Whereas the ones that, you know, were with another insurance company that perhaps were heavily hit and were really affected, you know, could hardly get anything. And so, you know, these people who were doing all these full-blown renovations, they thought, oh, I know, I'll cash in on this, and were selling up. And these poor buggers that, you know, were stuck with a damaged home that was in repair, and they knew that this one's selling for this and they could get the same for their house, but they just didn't have the money sitting in the bank. It just didn't seem fair. And so, you know, I was thinking, it just sort of sparked an idea to me. I'm like, well, you know, we're also, and at the time we were in a position that because we were working for ourselves, we didn't have borrowing capacity at the bank at that time, because even though we were making big profits, the bank didn't recognise profits as income. And, you know, that's a whole story for another day, which I'll get off my soapbox now. But, you know, it can be really tricky to satisfy the box tickers in the bank, and we didn't have the borrowing capacity at that time. So I thought, well, hang on, how can we get a bit creative here where we can win and we can help somebody else win at the same time? And I thought, well, it's a no-brainer. We've got skill and we know what we're doing, and we'll just go in. And at the time, we even used investors' money to do, you know, like we have used investors' money to do our projects. So it's not even using our own money. So again, it's giving using investors' money, which means they get a return on their money, so they win as well. So it's about the more you collaborate and work with people rather than in competition with people. You know, that's where the true magic lies. And, you know, we pretty swiftly got the Channel 7 show, so we didn't have time to stick around and do much there. But, you know, it's something that we really strongly, feel good about doing. So, yeah, we've started to look around for opportunities here on the Gold Coast, and I mean, they're everywhere. And it's not for every single property. Like I said, you know, it's got to be worthwhile for both parties, or it's really, you know, it's not, the juice isn't worth the squeeze for either party. But if it is, you know, it can be awesome.
Yes.
You have a strict, obviously, process that you follow in order to be able to determine those properties that you're going to select. But what a great process, Emily, and what a great gift to those people.
Very nice.
Now, I've got another question, because I was interested. I have met your real estate agent before, and I was curious about how you went about the process of selecting the agent of choice, you know. So that's an interesting thing for a lot of people, because a lot of people are wooed by big numbers that agents might tell them. But yeah, so how did you decide which agent you were going to select?
Look, the way that we choose agents is area knowledge is crucial. They've got to know the area because, like I said, you know, the slightest changes can happen and it can be dictated to by something that's going on in the area. You know, just knowing to tell a prospective buyer, oh, look, we're only 50 metres from such and such cafe where you can go and have breakfast overlooking the water. Things like that is just key, you know, because they can really paint the picture of what it's like to live there passionately. And I think that's more important than saying, here's a good product and I think you should buy it. You know, if they're passionate and they feel energy towards that property, they're going to sell it because they're not really selling the property, they're selling their passion for the area and that property. So that's really key. I go for energy. So I'm really big on energy. If someone's flat, see ya, I won't even talk to them because, you know, sales 101 is you don't buy the product really, you buy the energy that is, you know, it's being sold in. And it's like they've got to be likable. They've got to be good at their job as well. But, you know, I'm in two minds because, you know, I'd almost myself prefer, you know, someone to rock up in casual wear and be passionate than I would the stiff shirt and tie kind of, but doesn't have any ounce of enthusiasm about them. So it's finding that nice blend where they're a professional, they speak the language of the buyer. I think that's very, very important. They understand their needs. They're not in it for themselves, so they're not in it just to make money, because you can tell straight away if a real estate agent just sees dollar signs or if they actually are passionate about what they do. And it's the ones that are passionate that by default they will make a lot of money. But it's not about the end result, because then they're not caring about what the buyer wants or what you want, you know, and somebody that's going to work for you. Okay, I think it's really important. Because, you know, some people are two schools of thought where they think that they should be equally positioned between you and the buyer. Well, yes and no. I think they really need to have, they need to hold posture and really let the buyers know that, you know, they're working for the vendor because they believe in the product, you know, and I think that shines through. And so there is a real strict interviewing criteria that we have now. And it's just from learning from experience. I've had a lot of bad ones, let me tell you.
And you have speaking of that process, Bobbie, you actually have a bit of a different process in the US when we talk about realtors and how they're selected. You know, what sort of things are different for you?
Well, here we have the seller's agent as well as the buyer's agent. So they, you know, they declare one side or the other.
Yeah.
So typically that's what happens. But occasionally a realtor will actually do both sides of the transaction, where they'll have the listing, but they're also representing the buyers. That's called dual agency. And I don't know all of the parameters in that, but it's really, it's uncomfortable because then the agent cannot give recommendations to either side, because they have to be neutral, because they have to represent. So it's a tough position. And many of the realtors that I work with naturally are listing agents. Occasionally I'll get a buyer's agent who will get a listing and they'll call me, and I love to ask the question, okay, so you're a buyer's agent, so give me some information about, you know, from your side of the street, how do you feel about the staged home versus a non-staged home? And I had one buyer's agent who shared a great story with me, and that what she said was she has her clients go onto the computer, put in their search parameters and hit enter. And so what happens, of course, is you get all the pictures of the house, you know, what the address is. And she says, start looking at them. And she said, pick only the houses that have bad pictures. Yeah. There's less turnout, less people looking at the house. chances are it's been on the market for a while. Usually they don't look as bad in real life as they do in those photos, but we're dealing with desperation. And I said, but you're calling me? And she goes, because I'm not going to be one of those listings. She said, my listing is going to be one where when people see the photos, they say, oh, honey, we've got to go see this house. And I said, oh, okay. So I took that to heart. But so agents they generally are one side or the other, but occasionally they'll be on that tightrope. That's the dual agency. So is that what you were talking about, Tracey?
Yes, I was. Yeah, they use buyer's agents heavily, Emily, in the US or in Bobbie's area. And the other thing, I thought your styling was beautiful. So it really,
that means a lot coming from you.
I mean, it really did. It was perfect for the different areas. You know, you really showed off the spaces. There were just so many beautiful aspects. And I mean, that's what we're in the business of, is selling rather than, you know, making it look pretty.
Thank you. That means a lot coming from you, Tracey. Thank you. I was really nervous actually when I first started. I was thinking, oh my gosh, because I knew that you knew what we were doing, and I'm thinking, what if it's not, like, what if Tracey thinks it's hideous?
Beautiful.
It was beautiful. And I'm stealing your idea of the bamboo for the privacy, because there are many times, especially with townhomes, etc., that, you know, it's just, you're just bare to everybody. And I love the idea of the bamboo. So that was beautiful. And I loved your use of color, using that green, popping the green to pull it through the eye. That was beautiful. Really nice job.
It's subtle but lovely.
Thank you. Now
we've only got a moment left, really, and everyone is saying that they love the ideas. You know, Shelley's saying, so I so agree. If you give more, you are more successful. Trudy loves the ideas on low cost renovations on kitchens, you know, because that's going to give the best return for money. Debbie Buckley, who is a professional organiser, Debbie's saying, love these tips even if you aren't selling. Jodie Brooks, who is in real estate, has said, awesome ideas, thank you all. And, you know, Shelley's saying it's an awesome ideas to help the sellers. So, great ideas, Emily. And you've got a giveaway for our viewers.
Yes. I've got a couple, actually. We didn't get around to it today, so, you know, perhaps we can chat again sometime in the future about how to up your rent, basically, is our business. And so we've got a website called upyourrent.com. If you're in Australia, it's probably more like up your rent, but it's up your rent.
I'll translate that for you later, Bobbie.
Okay, thank you.
But look, you know, that's got a cheat sheet, if you will, of the 10 best top tips of how to create a successful Airbnb business. So you feel free to go to upyourrent.com and download that. However, if you want to check out more about what Az and I are doing as being my partner in terms of our renovating, we're also in a mode at the moment where we are looking for our next project where we can collaborate with the seller to do a free renovation. So if you're interested in applying, then we are absolutely taking applications for that at the moment. So you can apply to have your property renovated for free if you're thinking of selling. And yeah, we will absolutely consider all applications. So yeah, if you want to drop us an email, you can find all of our contact details. Tell us your name, the area address if you feel comfortable with it, and the reason why you think you need a free renovation or would like a free renovation. So all of our contact details can be found on our website, which is AZANDEM, so it's AZANDEM.com, or alternatively, if you forget that, you can just contact us through upyourrent.com. So I'll write these in the chat so that people have got them.
Thank you. And that's at AZANDEM.com.
There it is. I've just popped it
in American English.
Oh, AZANDEM.
Hey, I am so impressed because I got that. I got it. You didn't even have to translate. I got that.
Yeah.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
We are so on the same page.
Well, at least we've been able to embrace Minnesota and Alice Springs, even if there's nobody from Alice Springs on the call.
Yes, I was going to say Trudy's Minnesota. So that's what I was like thinking earlier, right?
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. It's been wonderful. Emily, how fantastic. You have just given us so much information, so much, so generous with your knowledge. And, you know, that was...
Oh, we almost lost you, Trace.
Yep, Tracey, you froze in time. So we'll just have to see. Well, Emily, I'll tell you, you were fantastic, and we do love that open heart, open hand. Tracey, we lost you there for a little bit. You froze up on us. So you were saying Emily, and then you disappeared. So
I think you summed it up in 3 words anyway. Open heart, open hand. Really appreciate your kindness. It's so early in the morning. And our viewers, Trudy from Minnesota says, thank you so much. It was a great webinar. Really enjoyed it. Shelley is, thank you so much for this morning's topic. I have enjoyed it so much. Shelley's a would-be renovator, so she'll be watching closely, Emily, the things that you're doing. And we're really keen to be able to help you promote your webinar when that is happening too. So we'll talk about that down the track. And yeah, love. Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you, Jody. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Bobbie. Thank you, Trudy, Jody, Shelley, Alison. I hope I haven't forgotten anyone. But we look forward to seeing you next week. Week 3, we're talking about maintenance. So we've got some of the maintenance on. Sorry, Bobbie.
And Biljana. I hope I'm saying that. Is that right? I hope I'm saying it right.
Cool. Thank you so much for having me as well too, ladies. It's been really awesome to chat, even if it was early. And hopefully, you know, the viewers have been able to get something out of it and, yeah, have as much fun as we did.
Perfect. Yeah.
Thank you. And so we're going to say goodbye to Alison and Biljana and Debbie and Shelley and Trudy bye too. So
yes,
Trudy
and Jody and Debbie.
Thank you all.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Okay. Now we're still live on YouTube.